Hey everyone, here with Antique Book Collective, and today I'm getting to you guys with an interesting little book haul. So this book haul, guys, it came from that one estate sale that I've mentioned quite a few times where I bought all those books. And this video is going to be about if someone has a ton of the same book, ... So something interesting with this book sale, guys, is this person, they had quite a few books, obviously, but they also had a lot of books that were the same book or the same exact book or the same story, different edition, all that sort of stuff. So this is The Robe. I believe this is most of the ones I had. I think I might have sold a couple by now, but they had quite a few copies of The Robe, and it's an interesting story. It's about the Roman soldier who cast lots for Jesus's robe, and they also had quite a few of Harry Potter books. A lot of them are first edition ones. None of them are the first printings, or at least none that I know of just yet. I think I've gone through them all, but I've had quite a few of those books, and when I saw that they had quite a few of the same exact book, I got excited. I was like, ooh, when someone has a whole lot of the same book, there are three scenarios that will then play out. One is those books are all very valuable. Two is they are worth basically nothing. Or three is a couple are valuable, a couple are not. So for me, I did another video on this actually recently, or it will be coming out soon. And Alice in Wonderland is something they also had quite a few copies of. And some of those Alice in Wonderland books were quite valuable. Other ones were not as much, which is one of the scenarios that you will have. The other scenario is they have a ton of the same book and they're worth basically nothing. So in my case, The Robe is one of those. Those books, I think I might have one that might be worth like $18, but the rest of them are worth a lot less than that, or just less than that, depends. But the Harry Potter books, those are sort of in the middle, but I'd lean more on the they're not worth much side of things, because a lot of people for Harry Potter books, they are selling them for $1,500 if it's a first printing, whereas these are not first printings. Some of them are earlier printings, but most of them were not, so I might get $100 or so on a few of them, but most of them are more along the lines of like $50 and less. So it's not worth nothing, but it's definitely not worth as much as, say, a Harry Potter first edition first printing. So those are two of the scenarios that I had from this one estate sale. However, there are other estate sales that I've been to that someone has like 5 of the same exact book, and each book is worth $60 or $100 or something like that, where they are very, very valuable. So if you guys ever do go to an estate sale, if it's a good price, if it's not a good price, depending, but it can definitely be worth either buying or at least looking at a book if someone has quite a few of the same exact book, especially if you know a thing or two about that particular book. And in addition to that, the same sort of rule applies for like book subjects. So if someone has a whole bunch of books on gunsmithing, it might be worth checking out those books because they might have a few very valuable ones mixed in, or it might be worth selling like those books as a set, because sometimes people like buying sets or lots of similar subject books. For me, I personally like parsing out most of the things, but I do sell lots of books that are similar subjects. So for instance, on my right here, I do have a lot of cookbooks. I've mentioned those in other videos because that's where they all went to die. But a lot of these cookbooks, I've sold quite a few different lots because, again, people like buying lots of books, especially if it's something like a cookbook or a gardening book or something like that. If you can lump together similar subject things. So for cooking, you might want to do crock pot recipes as one lump of them, and people would buy that, whereas like a bunch of random cookbooks might not be as apt to sell. So you will have to lump things together that are similar and parse out ones that are not, but that is something that you guys can definitely fiddle with if that is something that you come across. But by and large, if someone has, back to the original subject, if someone has quite a few copies of the same exact book, there's a good chance that it's going to be worth buying. And if nothing else, it could be worth buying these books because they might all be in the same exact condition, which means you do one listing with like 50 quantity, and it'll definitely save you time listing those books. So for me personally, I am more than happy to buy a book that has like 50 of them if they're all exactly the same, because I can list it once and it might be worth $10, but because I only list it once, my time that I put in is getting multiplied by however many I have. So for instance, I'll probably do a video on this in the future, but for instance, I have a paperback book stack over there from, I believe, an old bookstore, but it's like 20 some of the same exact book, same condition, all that sort of stuff, and I couldn't find any other sellers for it on eBay. There was one seller from history on Amazon, and then like no one else. So for me, I personally like own all the listings for this one book. So a lot of people had bought and sold it for like $40, so I think I am doing like $20 or not even $20. But because I have quite a few of them, I was like, it doesn't really matter what I sell them for, because at the end of the day, I made one listing and I'll be able to sell all of them from that one listing. So the time I put in, I grabbed the books, bought the books, listed the books, and all that is like 30 minutes of my time, as opposed to for a single book, 30 minutes of my time definitely is a total different feel, because that 30 minutes I have to make $50 for, as opposed to if I buy 50 books and they're all selling for X much, I could be making a multiple on my money. And of course 30 minutes is a big exaggeration of all that sort of stuff, but bear with me. But with that said and done though, guys, I hope that's informative. I hope it reminds you to keep your eye out for these sorts of things. If there's ever an anomaly while you're doing your shopping for things, that anomaly can definitely pay out, and it can pay out in a big, big way. Either it's going to be because you can do a multiple listing quantity sort of thing, or because a couple of those books or all of those books can be incredibly valuable. Or you can be like me, excuse me, you could be like me and end up with the robe and find out that the robe book is not nearly as the actual robe of Christ that it was written about. A bit of a bummer, because I thought it'd be a really expensive, cool book, seeing as the subject matter is Jesus Christ, and the story from what I heard about it, the story reminds me of Ben-Hur, and Ben-Hur is a very popular book that was written a few years before this one. So I was hoping it would be like under the same brand or banner and still be a very valuable one. Alas, it was not. I'm a little bit bummed about that. Might end up reading the book though, because it does look like an interesting book, but it definitely wasn't worth what I thought it'd be, and those Harry Potter books obviously weren't worth first edition, first print like I had hoped, but I was just buying all the ones without looking, because I was like, well, they have this many of them, and judging from my history with this, it's either going to be a total win or a total loss, but I was leaning towards total win with the Harry Potter ones. The robe ones I actually was a little bit more iffy about, because I didn't like look up much about the book before I bought them, because I didn't have internet access, but I was like, it'll be worth the test. I mean, it's only a few of them. Like, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So it's only 5 of them. It's worth the test. And end of the day, I didn't lose money, so that's a win, I guess. But it definitely was not worth as much as I had hoped. So we'll see. But long story short, though, guys, again, keep your eye out for that sort of stuff. Anomalies can pay. So thanks for watching. Be sure to subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.